Good day everyone. Today I will be presenting about Serba Dinamik Holding Berhad. Okay, background of Serba Dinamik. Serba Dinamik is an international energy service group providing integrated engineering solution to the oil and gas, petrochemical, power generation industries, water and wastewater and utilities. Their core business is in operation and maintenance and engineering, procurement, construction and commissioning, information and communication technology, and also education and training. Serba Dinamik. It is established in 1993 as Serba Dinamik through its subsidiaries by Muhammad Abdul Karim Abdullah as Oil and Engineering Company. On 2nd December 2015, it was incorporated as a private limited company in Malaysia under the name of Serba Dinamik Holding Berhad. Subsequently, on 13 May 2016, Serba Dinamik decided to go for a public market which is listed in capital market by converting its business into a public limited company. Okay, here arises a issue starting from the go for a public. Serba Dinamik Holding Berhad facing downfall of their business due to some problem at the company come to light in May 2021 with consistent negative news flow. Serba Dinamik was seeking legal redress against the front line of capital market regulator Bursa Malaysia. Bursa Malaysia has suspended trading of Serba Dinamik securities since 22 October 2021 for failing to furnish details of the updates on the SIR. The company was ordered to conduct the SIR on its financial account for the period ended December 31st, 2020 after its external auditor KPMG red flagged their audit issues. The company failed in its bid to obtain an interim injunction against Bursa Malaysia and Ernst & Young Consulting Sdn Berhad to prevent them from releasing a special independent review SIR on the findings on Serba Dinamik. The company's market capitalization has plunged from RM 6 billion prior to the issue surfacing to RM 1.3 billion at its price of 35 cents per share when the suspension took place. Serba Dinamik executive have vehemently denied any wrongdoings and have been trying to withhold with the content of Ernst & Young's findings, suggesting that the SIR is preliminary and inconclusive. Bursa suspended the trading of Serba Dinamik shares and warrants and said that the trading suspension will remain until Serba Dinamik make an announcement in compliance with the directive to ensure the audit issue highlighted by KPMG are readdressed in a timely manner and provided clarity to the market. Pertaining to this issue, Securities Commission decided to conduct a raid on Serba Dinamik on May 18, 2021 to secure documents and relevant evidence from several Serba Dinamik offices following Section 320 Capital Market and Service Act 2007. The Security Commission has made progress on its investigation and additional resources have been added to the team to ensure the investigation is completed in a timely manner. Okay, solution for this is integrity of Serba Dinamik is in a questionable state. So the Security Commission should assess the veracity of the audit done by KPMG by re-assess the audit finding whether it is in par with professional auditing standards or there is some hidden agenda as suspected. Secondly, they should strengthen their corporate governance policy by strengthening the board structure so that the board member is not act and make decisions solely for their personal interests and desires. There should be a balance of executive and non-executive director so that there is a genuine feedback for the well-being of Serba Dinamik. Thirdly, the internal audit should be re-assessed and improve their procedures and set a special quality standard in order to identify and recognize any wrongdoings or any misstatements from initial stage. The internal audit should do regular checking in all the documentation transactions and receipts, especially keep records of all the monetary transactions so that it won't be questionable in the future regarding the transaction as the issue arises and came to light recently.
The next issue is regarding professional ethics of auditors. The suit was initiated after KPMG raised many concerns about Serba Dinamik's invoice and transactions in the proposal annual report for the year ending 31st December 2020. KPMG was unable to validate the third-party data for these transactions, and KPMG has disputed the charge and stepped down as the external auditor owing to being unable to conduct its duties independently and citing publicly accessible evidence. Going to follow Serba Dinamik's legal action, 5 independent and non-executive directors resigned, with 4 of them expressing their dissatisfaction with the decision, and the company's stock price plummeted to an all-time low of 23% on June 25, 2021. To be successful in their legal action, Serba Dinamik must provide proof that KPMG did, in fact, breach its responsibilities, as well as on the basis of claim professional negligence, violation of contract, and breach of statutory duty. From our point of view, our suggested solution is accounting firms' leaders should act as a role models by ensuring that rules of conduct are implemented across the company in order to adequately train auditors as they manage any ethical quandaries. KPMG's behavior and judgment may offend a number of Serba Dinamik shareholders. However, being one of the big 4 accounting companies, KPMG's concern should always be taken seriously by Serba Dinamik. This is crucially the case of auditing issues and opinions. Serba Dinamik should then rectify the issue to the satisfaction of the auditors, and the strategy should be to have another firm look at the issue from a different angle and submit its view. As the auditor's relationship with the company is now strained, the obvious next step after completing the audit will be for the auditors to resign and a new firm to be engaged. That is how genuine professionals on both sides of the issue should act. So, in the future, anytime an audit potential problem is raised, always take the audit side. Auditors are objective and operate in the best interest of retail shareholders and the truth. They may not always be correct. However, their reliability and standing, particularly their global recognition, indicate that the difficulties addressed should be viewed with caution. In other words, auditors are and should be neutral. Moreover, the issue also arises in Serba Dinamik regarding their management. Serba Dinamik Holdings Berhad has nominated 2 new independent non-executive directors to its board of directors starting 25th November. This followed the prompt resignation of the company's chairman, Datuk Ilyas Muhammad and Johan Muhammad Ishaq. The duo declared in their resignation letters to the Serba Dinamik board dated November 22nd that the conditions imposed by Bursa Malaysia on the firm prevented them from fairly fulfilling their duties as independent directors of the companies. The 2 new independent non-executive directors are Abu Bakar Uzair and Nur Azrai. According to the Ash investigation in the recent nomination of an independent director, all three new appointments seem to be linked with each other. This brings the issue of whether the three appointments could well boost Serba Dinamik's corporate governance. The newly appointed chairman was little time in addressing the auditor's concern with negative remarks in a press conference. He also branding KPMG as shop lot auditors, rather than promising that the firm will assist in addressing auditing problems is concerning.
There are three suggested solutions for management-related issue in Serba Dinamik. Number one, the management executive should engage with external auditor on regular basis. Rather than making negative remarks to the auditor, company executive should have a proper discussion with the auditor and update the public on its approach to solve any issue arise. Number two, improve the function of nomination and remuneration committee. Nomination committee must ensure candidates are truly independent of each other before appointing them to the board. This is to ensure appointed director did not give biased opinion to the company. Number three, Serba Dinamik should also implement more transparency in their management. They should set up a policy to ensure the management act openly and honestly about business development and decision. For example, by adopting an open door policy, which is a communication policy where the upper management leave their office door open in order to encourage openness and transparency with the employees of the company. Now, let's moving on to the next issue, which is transparency issue. Transparency in a business is one of the most important elements for trust between the firm with its investor and stakeholder. Unfortunately, transparency has become one of the major issues in recent financial scandal of Serba Dinamik. The former external auditor of Serba Dinamik, KPMG, said it is unable to determine the appropriateness of the contract and transaction as well as revenue and costs recognized, which worth up to 3 billion ringgit when auditing Serba Dinamik financial statement year ended 2020. Instead of addressing the issue raised by KPMG, Serba Dinamik chose to take the legal action against KPMG. In November 2021, Serba Dinamik again making the headline by suing yet another big accounting firm, EY, which is its special auditor for providing information on factual finding update to the Security Commission without consent and informing the company. Then, most recently, Serba Dinamik wanted to stop the disclosure of the factual finding update on its special independent review. It makes it clear that Serba Dinamik seem like they're trying to hide something from the public. Having said that, all these cases still under court legal proceeding. There are still no conclusion that could be drawn to those cases. But what we can conclude is that lack of transparency in public company could really leave the bad reputation for the company and strike down its stock price in the market. To overcome transparency issue, there are 4 suggested solutions. Firstly, implement a whistleblower culture in the company. Every worker should be trained to alarm any suspicious activity or transaction in the company. This could encourage the honesty and transparency of the company. In this way, any fraudulent activity could also be detected at its early stage and catch the culprit before it brings more damage to the company. Next, Serba Dinamik should also improve its communication. Effective communication is the key to avoid any conflict. Serba Dinamik failed to communicate well with its external auditor. They did not address the issue well and sued everybody that were against their will. This makes them look like they refuse to open up and fix the problem. They should communicate well and disclose relevant information required to solve the problem. The third suggested solution is Serba Dinamik should share its information. Serba Dinamik failed to deliver important information to its shareholder. They choose to suit everybody that try to expose information to the public. Instead of hiding the information, Serba Dinamik should have a proper channel to communicate with its shareholder and disclose all the relevant information to its shareholder. Lastly, it is suggested for Serba Dinamik to provide a rationale for every decision they make. It should be implemented in every stage of company when making decisions. By doing so, it could also help others to better understand the decision-making process and the rationale behind the decision-making. It will also help to provide greater transparency and trust in the future decision-making.
The next issue is fraud. On 28 December 2021, the Securities Commission Malaysia charges on Serba Dinamik Holdings Berhad, its director and officers for false information in its financial statement submitted to Bursa Malaysia Securities Berhad. The company's Chief Executive Officer and Group Managing Director, Datuk Muhammad Abdul Karim Abdullah, was charged under Section 369A, Subsection B of the Capital Markets and Service Act 2007 on the oil and gas company's quarterly financial report misstatement for quarter ended 31 December 2020. It is filed at the Session Court of Kuala Lumpur, which had fallen onto Serba Dinamik Datuk Sheikh Nazim Sheikh Faizal, the Executive Director, and Azhan Azmi, the Group Chief Financial Officer, regarding to the RM 6.014 billion revenue figures included in Serba Dinamik's quarterly report on consolidated result for the quarter and year ended 31 December 2020. Included along with the charges is Muhammad Hafiz Osman, the group's Vice President of Accounts and Finance, with an additional charge in the Shah Alam Session Court. He was alleged for creating fictitious sales and resulting falsified revenue recorded in the Serba Dinamik's company's earning report for the quarter and year ended 31 December 2020. Abu Bakar Uzair, an independent non-executive director, to answer for the charge against the company, had claimed for trial. The accused officer also pleaded for not guilty and claimed trial to the court. For the suggested solution, the management of Serba Dinamics plays a big role in preventing nefarious persons from accessing the data of the company and gain benefits for the sole purpose of their self-interest. A thorough hiring process plays a critical role in mitigating fraud risks. The nomination and remuneration committees are responsible for the selection process of their board members. Background checking of the candidates must be done extensively for selecting the best person with the right skill sets and prioritize ethics, integrity, and professional qualities to operate their company. It must be aware of the succession risks and opportunities presented by the new board members. An appropriate reward policy that attracts and motivates executives to achieve the shareholders' interest in the long term. It needs to ensure the executive directors are fairly rewarded. The company can also set up a reporting system, an anonymous reporting system, for instance, a reporting website or hotline for whistleblowers will help them to report fraudulent activity by safekeeping the informal identity. A strong internal control system over the financial reporting. The system needs to be clear and concise on the specific duties. A transaction must be an approved transaction authorized by the management. Proper documentation is important for bookkeeping record like the payment receipt for the invoice paid and sales receipt. It also helps prevent and scanning for the signals of fictitious sales, fraud, theft, or any illegal activities occurred in the company's operation during the reconciliation process. Adopt securities measures like physical securities measures, cyber securities, and procedural security measure to safeguard the financial transaction. A material transaction needs to be signed off by multiple parties for confirming the operation engagement. It also can place a firewall in the company database to prevent illegal alteration from unauthorized parties. In conclusion, based on the issues, we have given few suggestions for solution. Security Commission should assess the veracity of the audit done by KPMG by reassess the audit finding whether it's in par with professional auditing standards or there is some hidden agenda which benefits for personal interest. Serba Dinamik also should then rectify the issue to the satisfaction of the auditors, and the strategy should be to have another firm look at the issue from a different angle and submit its view. To ensure the authenticity of the company statement, the management executive of all firms will have to engage with external auditors on a regular basis. As a result, rather of making negative remarks, it is preferable for company's executive to update the public on its approach to solve any issues. The Nomination and Remuneration Committee are also responsible for the selection process of their board members with the right skills sets and prioritize ethics, integrities, and professional qualities. The executive directors must be fairly rewarded. Setting up a reporting system for whistleblower and a strong internal control system over the financial reporting.